Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mr. Pick Me and the Manhater podcast. I'm Regan, aka the Manhater.
Sorry, my alarm just went off of my Alexa.
I thought we had it.
That's it too. Oh, did
Oh
you hear? Did
man.
I don't know if that showed up on the
No,
microphone.
you just looked insane for a moment. I
That
can't
was
hear
so
it.
fun. I was so ready to like just do it normally today and have that be the thing. And then it was like Alexa was like, no, 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 no.
Not today. Not
It
today,
was it
Chesko.
never makes noise. I don't even know that thing made noise.
Well, we didn't hear it, so you could be making that up. But
It is boom boom. It's like a note. I know the one downstairs does when there's like a package arrives or something. It goes like boom boom. I don't know. I'm Chesko, Mr. Pick Me on the ones and twos.
what does that mean? What does that mean?
That's a DJ term.
Oh, sorry, I'm not cool. I don't know what
Yeah.
that means.
So I think the ones and twos, this is my not being cool. I know the term. I don't know what it means. I think it means like the ones and like each turntable is the one and the two. And someone's going to hear this and be like, you
Idiot.
dummy.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
Well, friends, welcome back. Today we have, I feel like, a very interesting topic that I happen to be heated about, but it's
Hmm.
kind of sweeping the internet right now, particularly on TikTok. Now, granted, today's Wednesday when we're recording it, so if anything comes out after
Right.
Wednesday, we don't know
Right.
about it. We're from the
Hmm.
past. But what are we talking about today, Cheska?
We are talking about Chappell Roan recently released two TikTok videos back to back talking about her experience of her newfound major celebrity and the way that people interact with her in person.
Yeah, and some people are pissed.
Theme song.
You want bad advice, man? I'll give it out gladly. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. Shit.
Chappell Roan.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, well, God, if you don't know who Chappell Roan is, go listen to her
Then
immediately.
what is wrong with you? I guess we should wait. We should probably admit our bias.
We're biased. We really like Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
She's a singer of Pink Pony Club. It's very
Mhm.
popular right now. She's, what would you call her genre? Pop?
It's hard to
Like
define it.
alternative
It depends
pop?
on it depends on the song.
The gays love her.
Yeah.
Feminist icon. But she's really unique and she came up really quickly to the
Yeah.
point that like I remember people kind of hinting or insinuating she was like an industry plant, and then everybody
Mhm.
else on the internet going, they could not plant someone so cool. Like she is
Yeah.
so unique and interesting and outside of what any, executive in an office could ever
Mhm.
conjure up.
And it's genuinely the best. And I say this, I've been writing about her on threads for the past couple weeks, but I'm like, I mean, I was at a point where I was like, this is just what this account's going to be about. But it's one of the best albums I have ever heard, like from front to
Wow.
back. Like
Yeah.
it's the first unskippable album I've listened to in a long
Ooh.
time, where every single song and after like 25 listens, I was like, all right, what's my favorite song? And I limited it down to almost every song on the album.
Like, oh, it's just every song.
And the ones I left out, I was like, well, do I not like them only because I've listened to them so many times?
Good Luck Babe is my favorite one, which is a song
Mm,
about her dating at some point a woman who can't accept her sexuality and ends up with men despite like probably not
mhm.
enjoying them. And oh my God, I was like, oh God, that could have been me. Like, I would not be the singer of that
Yeah.
song. I would be the one she's singing about.
It's so funny because I will be belting out these songs in my car, and I am not the target audience for like one of my favorites. Like I said, I don't have a favorite. One of my favorites is Casual. And
That's a
for everyone who
great
knows the
one.
chorus, it's so good. But like if I'm
Yeah.
belting out the chorus, it doesn't make any sense for me to be singing that.
You're like, I've not experienced this in a long time.
My Kink is Karma is so
Oh
good.
my God, I've been binging that because that is how I feel. I
Mhm.
love karma. If I see
Oh,
someone getting some well-deserved karma, I'm like,
mhm.
delicious.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Play it on
And like
repeat.
The second verse just begins so like wishing you the best in the worst way, using your distress as foreplay. Oh,
Chef's kiss.
it's amazing. But the thing is, I don't have any. There's nobody I dated where I like have any ill will toward. Like I don't have any bad ex stories. I've talked about this online
That's
before. Like
fair.
I don't. There's not a single person that I've dated. There's some I should probably have negative.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think it's a fair
I've
assessment.
shared some stuff for you when I like
Yeah.
off the air, where I probably should. I guess know that no, our Patreon knows. I think I was
Yeah.
on the Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff I definitely probably should not be as like they were great. They were a good person.
I mean, I told you recently, I literally was
Mhm.
like, this guy's a good one. And then look back, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, he treated me like shit. I just
Mhm.
rewrote it. So yeah,
Mhm.
anyways, let's get back on topic. Chappell
Yeah, we're
Roan.
gonna the entire show is just us discussing
That's
her
how good her
songs.
music is, though. It's like it
It's
really
so
conjures
good.
up a lot of
Hmm.
emotions. It captures very specific emotions in a, but in a,
Hmm.
on a grand scale where like it feels so specific and yet it's so universal to many
Hmm.
people's experiences.
It's very accessible. I mean, the joke is that it's she makes music for in same your tagline for F the Nice Guy, right? The is that she's gays and theys.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
Um, and there was one guy that made a music. He was like, "Am I allowed to? I'm a
Can I
cis het
come to the
guy.
party?
Am I allowed to love her as much?" And I was like, "She's so good."
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
you just for her like vocal abilities, her
Hmm.
songwriting, her musical skills, like
She does stuff also that shouldn't like I'm like I shouldn't like this as much as like it seems almost like campy, but it
yeah.
seems cool when she does it.
She also has a really beautiful range and like I was
Hmm.
explaining to my wife like the way that she goes from like chest to head voice and like she
Hmm.
can push really high up.
Hmm.
It's so flawless and effortless the way that she sings. Even but it's still
Hmm.
really powerful and sounds
And
like it's raw.
emotional.
Yeah, but
Like Pink Pony Club is just like happy dancy, and then when you did the part,
listen to it.
especially the breakdown, and you're
Yeah.
listening to what she's saying, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, when she was like the when she talked to her mom,
Yeah.
and the it's like, oh
God.
God.
But I mean it's very hard to have a like to sing that beautifully and like
Hmm.
to like I said to go to chest to head voice in the way that she does without
Hmm.
like having a
Yeah.
distinct like difference. It's very hard to sing that soulfully and
Hmm.
still technically beautifully. Like
Hmm.
that's you don't see that combination very often. So anyway, she's great. That's the point.
Yeah.
But
So bias there. There's our
bias, bias,
bias.
bias. She had the nerve, I guess some
Hmm.
people would say, to tell her fans, hey, just because I'm a famous person doesn't mean you can do things to me that would classify as harassment and stalking.
Would you like me to read
Yes,
just
please.
so people know the exact words?
But yeah, I do not want to misquote Chappell Roan. I'll tell you right now,
Right.
please.
So this is the first video that she was there's two videos she posted back to back. The first one is I need you to answer questions. Just answer my questions for a second. If you saw a random woman on the street, would you yell at her from the car window? Would you harass her in public? Would you go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?" And she's like, "No." What the and then you get mad at this random lady? Would you be offended if she says no to your time because she has her own time? Would you stalk her family? Would you follow her around? Would you try to dissect her life and bully her online? This is a lady you don't know. She doesn't know you at all. Would you assume that she's a good person? Assume that she's a bad person? Would you assume everything you read about her online is true? I'm a random B. You're a random B. Just think about that for a second, okay?
I agree. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really weird how we treat celebrities, especially like
Mm-hmm.
musicians. It's better like she came out of nowhere. She went from
Mm-hmm.
like not being recognized to being a superstar at a rate I really haven't seen. That's not generally how the industry
Yeah.
usually works. So she just was skyrocketed. And she's from a smaller town, isn't she?
Yeah, I think somewhere in Tennessee.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
she's
think
from
she's from a big town.
based on the lyrics from her
Yeah,
songs. That's the only
right.
thing I
I'm pretty
know.
sure though, like she's not
Uh-huh.
she wasn't like a city girl. She was like it's
Mm-hmm.
just a lot. And I think the way people like
Mm-hmm.
parasocial relationships are really strange and like I think it gets talked about a lot by like not by stars as much because I think they
Mm-hmm.
get pushback, but like there's YouTube people like
Mm-hmm.
do you know who Nick is not green is? or
Mm-mm.
Nick is Green. He's got like multiple channels. I don't know.
I probably, if I saw him, I'd
He's a
probably recognize it. Yeah.
commentary kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably a little bit younger than me. I don't know. I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
old he is. But
Right.
I saw an interesting video from him where he was like, it's really weird when people come up
Mm-hmm.
to me that I've never met in my life and treat me like their best friend and engage
Right.
with me like they know everything about me when I've never spoken to them. I don't know them. There's this false familiarity, this false intimacy. He didn't say those words, but basically it makes me really uncomfortable. Because I don't know you, but you treat me like I'm your best friend. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, I get that like my content, is, comforting in some way or like you relate to me. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's great. This is a butchering of what he was saying, but a general idea. It's like, but you don't know me. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that you enjoy my content, but I'm not comfortable with you then treating me like we're besties and thinking like that's an appropriate way to
Right.
treat a stranger. And I agree with that. What is your
Mm-hmm.
take?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I also think there's so many layers to this,
Sure.
as there is with any conversation. I'll use my own, and I have 0.01% of Chappell's fame, right?
Right.
Like, but the so I when I get approached, I tend to be fine with it, but it's not like every second of every day.
Right, right,
It's
right.
not every I'm still allowed as a niche internet personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, as a B-list internet celebrity, maybe D-list, whatever it is, I'm still allowed to exist and have my life.
Right.
That if somebody were to come up to me and I were to say like I'm busy, I'm with my kids, I'm doing something like that,
Right.
even if they got mad at me, no one's gonna care. It doesn't. It's not gonna end up being this big deal.
Sure.
But I feel like when you reach a certain level of fame, whether it's as a niche internet personality or as a singer, musician, celebrity, etc., you end up having to constantly. You don't ever get a chance to just be you, to exist
Right.
in society. And I think that's something I can definitely relate to on a neurodivergent perspective, from
Sure,
a
sure.
masking perspective, like the idea that I could never exist without performatively embodying this and having to give of myself constantly to everybody
Yeah.
at all times is horrible, right? That sounds like the worst thing possible to me.
So Drew Walla was interviewing her and she was talking about it and she was like, I miss being able to just be like a person. She's like, I miss going to Forever
Hmm.
21. I miss
Hmm.
being able to like essentially be wild in public and make out with
Hmm.
somebody without everybody judging me or watching me. She even said I miss like frolicking. I used to just
Hmm.
like basically like I was a weirdo. Like I used to be able to
Hmm.
just be a weirdo. And she's like, now I can't do that. I can't just be myself and exist. And like,
Yeah.
I think we need to be clear too about the type of harassment she's receiving.
Right.
Because do you have like the details of that, or do we need to look that up?
I don't know if there are the details out there.
Well, there was something that happened where somebody
Hmm.
like someone showed up at her house, I think.
Hmm.
I'm trying, let's see if we can find that.
Well, while you're looking, responding to what else she said too, I remember when I was interviewing with an agency before, and they're like, "What are your goals?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "To stay exactly as it is right now." Like I don't like, and it was very confusing for them, because I think and I think fans also believe this, that everybody wants to be famous, that
Right,
clearly you chose to be this way. And we'll get, she kind of talks about this in a second video, which we'll get to in a second. But I think there is this misconception that everybody wants this thing, or if I want this thing, why would you not want
right,
this thing? Why, how could you be upset about, you have everything I've ever wanted, why would you reject me giving you the thing that I want,
right.
without ever assuming that maybe somebody might have a different perspective on that?
Well, it's also interesting because like the fact that we align the two together as one thing, like you could want to be a famous actor, you could want to be
Right.
a successful musician, you could want to be a successful influencer, you could want to be so many of those
Hmm.
things. And you could still not want to be stalked and harassed. Like I
Right.
honestly cannot believe just like paparazzi, for example. Like I
Hmm.
cannot believe that they're allowed to do that. I mean, they
Right.
do stalk people. They literally stalk
Hmm.
people. And
Hmm.
like they swarm people and like they're just allowed to do that. And like
Hmm.
they incite violence from them. Like they'll purposely try and piss them off. They'll try
Hmm.
mess with their kids. Like
Well, I remember like there was like even like with like National Enquirer and all those other big
Oh
ones.
God.
They'll even like publish like there was always that big scandal of, like nude photos and stuff
Oh
that would
my
come out,
God,
and
yes.
it would be stuff. One, they'll publish ones that were clearly hacked and stolen. That's already. I think there are laws that are in place now
Yeah.
about those, but there'll be things where like they'll be on a balcony somewhere where they were able to see in the backyard and zoom in on somebody, and they'll publish those. Like, and I don't understand how that the
They did get in
legality of
trouble for
that.
that one. I remember one
Yeah,
of those that they actually got in trouble.
but that's the life you like, even in your own backyard, right? Even on with hanging out somewhere, that privacy is now gone. If you forget to close your blind on your window one day, that privacy is now gone.
Right.
And that's a part of our culture, that the celebrity idolization, where it's just expected that they are supposed to give up any autonomy over their own life just
That's
because they hit a certain level of
crazy.
fame, and it's ridiculous.
Basic consent that like the
Hmm.
idea like I own you and like that
Hmm.
it's like they're saying that she shouldn't even be able to say no.
Hmm.
What? Like
Hmm.
this isn't even just like, oh, she has a bad attitude.
Hmm.
People are mad that she would say
Hmm.
like, please don't come up to me. Something really weird happened where she was genuinely getting stalked by a fan who was
Hmm.
like, I can't remember what, but was like monitoring her location and like her family's location. I
Hmm.
believe somebody showed up at somebody's house or at least like following, like people were saying where she was located, like
Hmm.
a live update of where she was. And that's not okay, like to do to someone. And like
Hmm.
the fact that they're like, you can't have an opinion on being stalked. Like, I think you can.
We talk about, on many episodes we've talked about how just simply existing as a general woman in society, right?
Right.
You have to
Right.
walk around with certain, you can't have blinders on, where you have to be aware of where you are, who you're around, who's approaching you, and doing those things. Yet somehow, she's still a woman in her body, existing in that same world where danger is still present, where there are
Right.
still people that will outwardly try to harm her, and yet she's somehow expected to just not to stop doing everything she has done for 26 years. I think she's 26,
Hmm.
of her life, simply because now she has a great album that people love,
Right.
right? She's no longer allowed to have her own, to want to do the thing she wants to do.
And it's disturbing because it's people who are claiming to love her doing it, I think,
Right.
too.
Hmm.
Is these aren't people that, I mean, she did talk about being criticized and stuff, but like
Hmm.
these are supposed fans.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, if you're a fan of this person, and you love this person and you want them to keep making music and they
Hmm.
have voiced that they are uncomfortable when strangers come up to them, which
Hmm.
is actually very common. Like,
Hmm.
how many people on earth are like, oh, stranger that doesn't know me, please approach? Not
Hmm.
many, right? Um, and yet, instead of being an actually like loving and supporting person to this
Hmm.
star that they say they love, they're like, well, screw you. Not to mention,
Hmm.
she is neurodivergent. She's bipolar.
Okay.
So she's come out and said that and talked about how she's had breakdowns, like mental
Hmm.
breakdowns. She's talked about how hard it was for her growing up. Like, I am also bipolar. So, like,
Hmm.
I don't mean that in a negative way, but you do have to take into account someone who, is
Hmm.
dealing with some mental health issues or, has consistently had to deal with them. Like, this type of behavior does really affect them and
Hmm.
can really be detrimental to their mental health. And clearly she's distressed in these videos. She's not like, I mean, she's not screaming or anything.
But they're not scripted.
No, she's upset.
Yeah. Hmm.
She's and like also like I said, they're stalking her family too. So it's not just her. Now
Hmm.
her family's getting stalked.
Hmm.
Um, it's like you can tell she's in distress.
Hmm.
And she's like just like, hey, stop, stop.
Hmm.
And it's insane to me that people who claim to love her and love her
Hmm.
music are then being like, how dare you? How
Hmm.
dare you have boundaries? How dare you say I can't come up to you? You should be thankful. And this is a constant thing for her now. This isn't like
Hmm.
like, oh, like one person comes up to me in the street. This is mobs of people. It's people following her. This is a constant every like she cannot leave her house without people addressing her. She talked about how she was tried to go to yoga. She tried to go to yoga just to relax. And the
Hmm.
teacher was like, you look like Chappell Roan. Do you know you look like Chappell Roan? You look just like her. and then did the whole class and wouldn't stop pointing out how much she looked like. And like, yeah, this was the Giraffe Walla one. She was like, you should have said, no, I hate that bitch. But yeah, I was like, that's funny.
I think my husband showed me her albums.
Yeah, right. I don't think it's fair. And to your point, because you kind of spoke on this, to say to someone
Hmm.
like, oh, you want to do music? Like, oh,
Hmm.
people like your music. That means you literally don't get to exist other than hidden in your home
Hmm.
without being monitored and expected to perform. And this is what it's a performance. She's saying I'm
Hmm.
not comfortable. So if she's engaging with you, you are expecting her to perform because
Right.
what? Because you like her music? If
Hmm.
this was anyone other than a star, to her point, like that would be stalking. That would be
Hmm.
harassment. And yet we're supposed to be like she's just supposed to take it.
And and this is, I want to be clear. What I'm about to say, nobody deserves to have, nobody is, I think, required to do any of these things, right? Nobody's ever required to give up their body in that sense. It's a type of giving up of your body and your space.
Yeah.
But it's not, there are people that do get famous for being famous, right? You think
Sure.
of you can, the big ones would be like, the
Sure,
Kardashians
sure,
or
sure.
the young Paris Hilton,
Right.
any number of influencers that they're known for just being known, right?
Yeah.
I think at that, the expectation there, I think many of them probably do enjoy the
Attention.
many of the attention, because that's the whole point, right? That's
Right.
the literal definition of why are they doing it. It means their brand is getting bigger if they're getting recognized or doing those things. But it is fascinating to be like, just because you happen to love making good music and you like performing, you don't that doesn't mean you have to sign away. Or it almost seems like that is part of the social contract, which
Right.
people are expecting you to do, is that, well, you like making music, you're good at that,
We like
sorry,
it.
your life is over.
Right. We own you.
We now own your, everything about your life right now. And that's absolutely absurd,
Yeah.
right? To be able to do that.
I think a lot about when I got with my wife, like I'm obviously extroverted. She's
Hmm.
severely introverted, and it took me a
Hmm.
long time to understand like what that meant for her and what that looked like and how she needed to recharge. And it was something I had never really thought about,
Hmm.
because it wasn't my experience. And, I really started to think about like the world is not made for like introverts, and introverts aren't
Hmm.
allowed to exist. And I don't know that Chapel's introverted necessarily, but it
Hmm.
is true for her that she wants people out of her space and out of her
Hmm.
face.
Hmm.
And I mean, I see that similarly with like introverts. Like people just expect you to want to be social. They expect you,
Hmm.
even like touching, like hug on you.
Hmm.
There's so many things where like consent isn't even in the conversation in
Hmm.
social interaction. And I feel like that's true of what's going on with Chapel. And like she's not faking anything. Like if someone went
Hmm.
on, Facebook or Facebook, what am I saying? If someone went on, TikTok and was like, I love my fans. I love when they come up to me anytime. I love to talk
Hmm.
to you. And then someone came up to them and they were an asshole. Then I'd be
Right.
like, okay, that's kind of messed up because you told
Right.
them to do it. But when she's been saying this, this isn't the first
Hmm.
time she's actually said this. She said this multiple times in interviews and other platforms.
Hmm.
Like, I don't like this. I don't like
Hmm.
being come up to. I don't want to take pictures. And which, by the way, a lot of celebrities refuse to take pictures now. That's not
Hmm.
uncommon, or do autographs.
Hmm.
I read an article about different celebrities who don't do that anymore
Hmm.
because they're like, I would rather talk to you. Like Billie Eilish has talked about it, being like
Hmm.
the girl who was like filming her when she was in her face and she pulled her
Hmm.
phone down and was like, hey, you can connect with me in this way. Like, stop.
Right.
But anyways, this is not an uncommon thing. This is like becoming more and more an issue as social
Hmm.
media. I think also as people can get clout from seeing celebrities.
Hmm.
Like, if you make a TikTok where Chappell Roan's
Hmm.
in the background, oh my God.
Right.
But anyways, I think we're gonna see more of this. I think she is just really, she probably has less media training to be honest. But
Hmm.
she's just being straightforward, and it's like she has the right, like she has been straightforward this whole time that she doesn't like that.
Hmm.
So why are people forcing her into a non-consensual interaction and then being pissed at her because
Hmm.
she's like, I don't like this.
Let me read, just because we've already touched on some of it, just for the sake of having it
Yeah.
on here. She says, I don't care that abuse and harassment, stalking, whatever, is a normal thing to do to people who are famous or a little famous, whatever. I don't care if that it's normal. I don't care that this crazy type of behavior comes along with the job, the career field I've chosen. That does not make it okay. That does not make it normal. It doesn't mean I want it. It doesn't mean that I like it. I don't want whatever the fuck you think you're supposed to be entitled to whenever you see a celebrity. I don't give a fuck if you think it's selfish of me to say no for a photo, for your time, or for a hug. That's not normal. That's weird. It's weird how people think that you know a person just because you see them online or you listen to the art they make. That's fucking weird. I'm allowed to say no to creepy behavior, okay? And move that last line.
I
Boom.
mean, that's
Mhm.
consent.
I'm
Like,
allowed to say no to creepy
yeah.
behavior. Absolutely. That's what it comes down to.
It really bothers me. And like I think
Hmm.
about like even in my own life, like people touching me, like people demanding hugs. Like there's this guy who is really this will be a short tangent, but this
Hmm.
guy who now I'm doing it. We're talking on the pre-show about how Chesko and I both will preface a tangent with like, we'll come back around. It
I
has to do
promise
with
it's
it.
connected.
There's
Yeah.
something going on. This guy, in my opinion, it was very like sexually harassed me and was very
Hmm.
inappropriate. For the record, asking me graphic questions about being a lesbian, and then talking about all the women and guessing if they were top, bottoms, or switches. So just so you know how inappropriate this guy was at a work event. Okay,
Hmm.
so
At a work
inappropriate.
event
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
the wildest thing
It
ever.
was like the chills
It's
part.
wild no matter what, but
Yeah, it
still.
was at a work in a work setting with everyone who
Hmm.
worked together. Like this was an
Hmm.
after hangout, but like it was definitely,
But still, yeah.
yeah, terrible. And he like will be like, where's my kiss? Where's my hug?" And like I finally started working around that and like not hugging him and not like
Hmm.
I don't want my entire body pressed on yours. I don't want you
Hmm.
kissing my face. Like
Hmm.
I don't like you. Like, why do you have the
Hmm.
right to my body in that way? And like, I just started realizing how many times like I would be hugged by people I didn't want to hug, like little instances of that. And like, with
Hmm.
like, ugh, I just,
Hmm.
because when people hug you, they can be weird. We all know that.
Hmm.
Like, and to think of her being hugged, like, I try to put myself in her shoes and I really can't think of it's
Hmm.
baffling, but to think of 50 strangers a day, maybe
Hmm.
more, coming up to you and wanting to touch your body and
Hmm.
hug on you and talk to you and interrupt your life and take photos with you and take photos of you. That's so
Hmm.
common. It's like people getting their photo taken without their
Hmm.
consent. Like, ugh.
And also, it's not, you don't know which one is innocent, which one is malicious,
Right.
which one is going for, you don't know. And that's the whole, and I talked about the layers of privilege when it comes to these certain things too. Like whenever people have approached me, like I was at Legoland with my family and someone came up to me very quickly and they're like, are you, do you
Yeah.
do the TikToks? Are you speech
Mhm.
prof? I was like, yeah. She's like, I love your stuff. And I was like, oh, thank you. And we
Yeah.
walked away. But there was, as someone living in the body that I have, I didn't, even a random person approaching me, I wasn't worried. Not saying somebody couldn't do something dangerous to me
Why,
or
what
commit.
about your body makes you think you could take them? Is there something about you that makes you different?
I'm
How
6'5".
Oh,
I've
oh,
never mentioned
okay.
that before online. Uh,
Shocking.
yeah.
No, but that's
No,
real. That's real.
but it is real.
Yeah,
Like I am able to navigate spaces, and even
sure.
with like I said, I want to be very clear and not comparing myself to Chappell Roan
Hmm.
at all. But even in this pseudo celebrity space of this that I'm in, I still I no matter what happens, no matter who approaches me,
Yeah,
I'm constantly have that privilege still of my lived experience of the body that I'm navigating this world
sure.
in, and that changes that even if I was to get bigger, even if I was to get more
Hmm.
famous, even if I was to have more people approaching me, that's still going to exist, and that still changes the way. It doesn't give people permission, doesn't mean people touch, but I do notice that when people approach me,
Yeah,
they are much more hesitant to touch me, versus when I see other people at the same level as myself,
right.
I see people immediately put their arm around them,
Literally
immediately
hug,
grab them.
kiss,
Hmm.
like I mean kiss on the
Hmm.
cheek. God, sometimes I want to kiss, like,
Right.
oh, and like I've had the same thing. I remember being on an only been recognized a couple times, but
Hmm.
I was on an airplane once, and this is from my other page, my mom
Hmm.
content, and she just really casually was like, "Hey, just want to let you know, I love your videos." And then I was like, "Which one?" Because that's two different
Hmm.
vibes. Like what page?
Hmm.
And she's like, "Really love your videos. Great. And then another, I was at the zoo one time and I got same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like they didn't, they weren't rude, they weren't
Mm-hmm.
overbearing. But I remember both those times I was with my daughter and
Mm-hmm.
I don't show her face, I don't say her
Right.
name, I don't feature her at all. I'm not comfortable with that. And like I think about the difference between me and my family, just like Chappell is talking about her family as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't be comfortable if someone took a picture of my child and put it up
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. That would really
Mm-hmm.
upset me.
I'd be furious if something
That,
like that
well,
happened.
truly,
Yeah.
but that could happen
Mm-hmm.
because people just like there are things you don't want to share, and like that's
Mm-hmm.
one of them. And like I the people that I've run into, anytime someone's recognized me, have been super respectful and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a bad experience, I guess. But like I think about that. Like when I was they could have taken a photo of me and my child. Like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's scary. Like it's not just you. Your whole life, and like I guess I don't understand like why, like what makes them think they have the right to do that.
It's the curse of social media too,
Yeah.
where and I think it's important. The reason, at least I think we're bringing up our own experiences though,
Hmm.
is that it's still, even for us at this small percentage of it, it can be hard. So I can't even fathom what
Right.
someone at Chapel's
Exactly.
level is. But I think because of, and Chapel's, she makes TikToks, right? She's
Right.
before there's stuff of her talking, and I think people start to, and this happens to content creators all the time, where people
Yes.
forget that they're strangers,
Right.
right? It's like, oh no,
Right.
no,
That's what I mean.
we're
Yeah.
it's different. You're not like musician X who I've only ever heard their music. You're my friend who makes music.
Right.
You're someone who I have a deeper understanding of, who makes it's okay for me to treat you that way, because
Right.
we go back. We have that
Yeah.
relationship.
Like you're talking to me when you're making videos. You're talking to me
Hmm.
on stage when you have that viral clip. You're
Hmm.
talking to me through your music. And it's like,
That's beautiful from a
yes.
separation
Right.
standpoint.
And she is so open and accepting and she
Hmm.
is so supportive. That's used against her almost. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
because she's so open and honest and gives so much, you want her to give more and expect her to give more. Like both can be true. She can be a wonderful artist. You don't really know anything about her other than like
Hmm.
there's some probably facts that you could know about her, but like
Hmm.
you know what she presents and you know what you feel about her from seeing her, but like you don't know her. And to assume that you should have be able to have that type of intimacy that you wouldn't really have with any other stranger on the planet.
Hmm.
She can be the wonderful person you think and still not want strangers to touch her, stalk her.
Hmm.
And I can imagine for her it would be difficult as someone who's skyrocketed because she probably still sees it as stalking, which it is. It
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
stalking. But like stars,
They're allowed to be stalked,
everyone's like tiniest
right?
violin in the world for
Hmm.
stars, but um I really do feel like that part is really scary to me, especially for
Hmm.
women. It seems like the stalking part is intense for them,
Hmm.
and the critique is intense. And I think it would be so hard for her because she could go to the cops, like, and how seriously do they take her? Because
Hmm.
she's like, this person showed up at my house. This person is posting my location to
Hmm.
millions of whatever amount of people on social media, and they'll probably be like, well,
Well,
you're a star.
yeah.
But like, a couple months ago, had she done that, she'd probably get a restraining order.
Hmm. So I'll go, whenever I meet, and we've talked about this a little bit before. I don't know if I was in pre-show or not, but I've met some, like, people that are crossing over from being content creators into celebrity
Sure.
status, right? Where they're at that much larger level, where I've had bad experiences with, right? Where they have kind of like, and I try, and it's hard at first when someone who you do like just kind of brushes you off, but you also have to like walk away thinking, I don't know what they've been through that day. I
Sure.
don't know if I was the 20th person that they're just trying to get a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and that's taken them 30, maybe they have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
There could be a
right.
million things that going, I don't know what happened in their real life. I know, like, even as a creating content, when I'm
Yeah.
having a rough week, when something's going wrong, if there's a health issue and I still have to put on that face on, I
Yeah.
still, at least that's just online, I still get my regular life where I can be sad, where I
Yeah.
can be alone, and I can go do those sort of things. To give that up, and to judge, I think that's the key you were getting at, is to judge someone for the interaction without even trying to imagine what it's like to exist in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Is and yeah, there of course she has extra privileges now. She's making a lot of money. She has all sorts of fame. That of course there are positive things that come along with it as well. But that doesn't mean there's no contract that says, okay, in order for fame, I'm going to give up everything. It just kind of happens. And there's
Yeah.
millions of musicians right now that would, some of them would love that, but many would be like, oh, if I had to give up, if my choice was to continue making this art that I love, but it meant having to give up everything else I love, they'd probably give up that art in a lot of ways. And that shouldn't be the choice you have to make.
And I also think there's a difference between like I am not comfortable with being harassed and I'm not
Hmm.
comfortable with strangers coming up to me. Like I would like to interact with my fans on my own terms.
Hmm.
And I'm an asshole to my fans. Those are not
Hmm.
the same thing. And I
Right.
think
And there was, yeah,
pretending they are is not
yeah.
accurate. Like, do you remember there was a time when like Justin Bieber like was spitting on people
Hmm.
and there was with like I remember Ariana Grande, there was that case where she was like in the donut shop and she like licked all the donuts
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
it's just petty bullshit that you shouldn't do to other
Right.
people. Like stuff like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's just not kind. Like you're not being
Yeah.
kind to people. You don't need to disrespect your fans.
Hmm.
That to me is much different than
Yeah.
somebody saying like, "Hey, I don't want you to stalk me. I don't want you to show up places. I don't want you to approach me if it's not the correct setting."
Hmm.
Like that is my boundary. Like that is I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. Those are two different things, and I think she's absolutely justified to
Hmm.
have boundaries with for how she wants strangers in mass to interact with her.
And I think more, this is, I'm hoping that this inspires more discussions about the
Yeah.
difference between someone being an asshole
Right.
versus someone just wanting space. Like there was, I'll give another example of, there was a poet that what he was on like Def Poetry Jam on HBO. I had performed one of his pieces in speech and debate competition. Like I was huge fan. I made a video about this a while back online, but huge. I was like, that was the person that I idolize. I thought they were the great, and I saw them. I was at my first nationals
Hmm.
as a team member. I was like, oh, cool. I'm like one of them now,
Yeah.
so I can go talk to them. And I went up and introduced myself, and about like what their work meant to me. And he looks at me and he goes, I could keep talking to you right now, but you see that girl over there with the, you reference her chest. And he was like,
No.
if I go over there, I could probably go back to her room later. So I'm gonna go. He said something. I don't remember. I remember the exact, but it was something like that to
Ooh.
me, basically. So I'm gonna go over there. And
Ooh.
I walked away, and I remember just standing there in shock
Yeah.
because the persona also of this person
Right.
was of this really kind and genuine, amazing person. And I found out later on that that's kind of the person I saw is actually who they are.
Right, right.
They did a lot of really heinous stuff. But that was that interaction. I was like, oh, that's something I'm allowed to be upset about, right? And people can be upset. People are allowed to be upset, feel their feelings as well. I don't
Sure.
want to say no one's not allowed, but to hold it against somebody,
Yeah.
right? There was a, to use that example, there's another content creator who I walked up to. We were at a behind the scenes kind of thing where
Hmm.
only creators were allowed, and I talked to them. They're like, okay, and they just walked away, and I was
Hmm.
like, they must be busy, right?
Sure, sure, sure.
They absolutely brushed me off, but I was like, they have stuff to do. I
Sure.
don't have the right to their time.
Right, right.
And even in a situation where it was people that were, where I'm technically in that club, even though I'm a minor member of that club, right? It still doesn't mean I have the right to their space and their time. They're still allowed to walk
Right.
away. And I think people need to really understand the difference between someone being an actual asshole and someone just needing space.
Yeah, and again, like this is the culmination of a lot of her experiences, and she's been having a lot of bad ones. And to
Hmm.
your point, like when someone approaches her, like she doesn't know, are they a normal person? Are they a
Hmm.
stalker? Have they been putting my photo out there? Are they going to harass me? Are they going to, because like fan interactions, like you don't know what they're going to say. Like
Hmm.
I have been shocked at some stories. Okay, so trigger warning on this one. I'm not going to say anything terrible, but like
Hmm.
you've heard of Natalie Portman's first really bad experience.
Hmm.
Did I tell you this? I feel like I told you this.
You
She,
might have.
uh, whatever. It's you're always you're a captive audience always. So like,
Yeah.
you'll give me a great reaction regardless.
Yeah.
Um, like you haven't heard it. So she was in Leon the Professional when she was young, which was this movie about a hitman, and I forget. I mean, she was young. She was a child. And it blew up. It did really good,
Hmm.
and she got her first piece of fan mail, and she opened it, and she read a graphic essay fantasy that an adult man had written her, and that was
Wow.
her very first like fan letter that he'd somehow gotten her address. That was from a supposed fan, and she was a
Hmm.
child. This is a man.
Hmm.
Like, I get bad things from people that don't like me, but there's also people that like you that'll say crazy shit to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so you have to remember, like, a lot of, especially if they're women, they're not always getting like, oh, I really respect your work. You
Hmm.
know, I really love your song. They might be getting graphic things said to them,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she's saying that she's been receiving lots of crazy stuff. And it's like, so, maybe you feel like she's being quote unquote rude to you,
Hmm.
but I think it's important to acknowledge, and this can be true of anybody, not just celebrities, but like you don't
Hmm.
know what's going on in their life. And
Hmm.
you can be upset maybe with the way that they speak to you, but it is important to maybe think about what is going on, like what have they been facing on a
Hmm.
grander scale, that has led to this.
So the anger from it is just a repackaged version of she was asking for it,
Right.
right? Or she
Ugh.
clearly she wouldn't be a celebrity if she didn't want this, right? Or like, oh, she wouldn't dress that way if she didn't want to be hit on, right? It's
Right.
it's
It's
those it's it's
weird.
it's literally that same mentality
So
of,
close to that.
yeah, where it's like, oh, you clearly you're lying. You're just bad. You're just mean. You couldn't possibly have ever pursued this if you didn't actually want this to be your life. The real answer is that you're just a meanie, right? Using the nicest possible words.
Good at it. Yeah, it's censoring, I guess. It's like you just got to think about like, okay, so if you like going up to her in real life, like if if this was you, like how would you feel? Like if you became famous out of nowhere and all of a sudden you're getting stalked, you're getting harassed. Like, do you think you might be a little bit crabby? Do you think you might
Mhm.
be a little bit scared of people coming up to you? Do you think you might be getting frustrated because you keep telling people you don't like this type of interaction and they keep doing it? Can you see that? And then do you recognize that what you're essentially saying is like, I don't like that she's saying no to me.
Mhm.
I have the right to her
Mhm.
body and her time.
Mhm.
She doesn't get to say no because she makes music I like.
Mhm.
That's the idea is I like her, so she can't say no to me. What does that
Mhm.
sound like?
Yep.
Like you really have to look at it that way because again, she's not signed any contract.
Mhm.
Like the contract that she has signed is if you pay for a ticket for me, I will be at that show and I will give you
Mhm.
the best show you've ever seen. She's a great performer.
Mhm.
And I will make great music and I like that is what she's offering. She's not saying I will give you every bit of my time, every bit
Mhm.
you can own my schedule, you can show up whenever you want, you can take my photo. Like that's just not the exchange.
This also like just happened, right?
Yeah.
Like she like the amount the like when you talked to this right at the very beginning,
Yeah.
the speed that her star has risen is absurd, right? Within you go back 6 months ago, even
Yep.
not even less than that, even probably, and most people wouldn't even know who you're talking about unless you were just in that very niche audience that had found her starting to, and she's gotten to the point of superstardom, really, especially to at least for uh, her target audience at
Yeah.
least, where it's she hasn't learned how to handle this. She doesn't have the training for it and the
Hmm.
experience of it. And it's not saying it's ever okay, but give her some grace. As
Jesus.
as a
Yeah.
26-year-old artist who 6 months ago was still just hoping she'd be able to make another album one day, or that was in that position where she was not going to be necessarily going to be on this verge of superstardom. Her album will be number 2 in the world, which should have been number 1. That's a whole nother argument.
Chesko, super fan.
That was not Taylor Swift bashing, by the way. I want to be very
Please don't
clear.
come for us.
I love Taylor Swift. My daughter's dressing as Taylor Swift for Halloween. That could very easily have been interpreted that way, and I want to make sure to nip that in the bud.
Everyone's scared. The
before. The
Swifties.
Swifties will not come
Yeah.
after me. I like Taylor Swift. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
But oh shit, the Swifties
Sorry.
the fear of Swifties threw me off. We
Hmm.
also have a habit of building up women and then destroying them. And
Hmm.
the other thing is like the toll it takes on people to constantly be on. I think like even me, just like in my everyday life, like when I'm a people pleaser. You and I talk about this. We just talked about it on the
Hmm.
Patreon, but like I turn it on around other people, and it's
Hmm.
it's it's tiring. But that's how I live my life. I don't know how to like not perform with certain groups of people,
Hmm.
right? And so like you think about like requiring someone to constantly be on is so detrimental to them. Like it's
Hmm.
not okay. Like that is a lot. Like she has to act. She's telling you, I don't want to do this. You're saying she should have to. Okay, well then you're asking her to push past what makes her comfortable. You're asking her to be actively uncomfortable with a smile. That's what
Hmm.
you're asking her to do. And you look at like Britney Spears, for example, who was absolutely put through the machine and built up
Hmm.
and then destroyed, and she constantly was faking it, and it was bad for her mental health, and people
Hmm.
started taking advantage of her because she was America's sweetheart, and she was
Hmm.
expected to smile and dance through all of her trials and tribulations, and like that wasn't good for her. And we
Hmm.
have said like, oh, we would never do that again. And
Hmm.
now I'm not saying they're equivalent, but I am saying
Hmm.
there's a young woman who's rising to stardom who is wanting boundaries in space and to take care of her mental health. And people are doing it again and being like,
Hmm.
oh, how dare you? Like,
Hmm.
do you guys not see the reoccurring pattern of this? Like, we build women
Hmm.
up and then, like, we decide, no, we're going to destroy you.
Hmm.
Like, it's not okay. It's not okay to
It's,
do that.
it's like if really ask yourself, do you like Chappell Roan? Do you
Right.
want to see more Chappell Roan in the future? Then
Right.
stop making her hate being Chappell Roan,
Right.
right? Don't make her despise this thing that you love and that she clearly loves too. Let her just exist as a human in this world
Yeah.
without expecting her to also be to honestly to be an object. Don't objectify her
Yes.
into something where and without forgetting her humanity and that she is a person and she also deserves consent over her own body and her own space, that she does not give up simply because her album is awesome.
I know, that's so
That doesn't, it's
crazy.
such a why is that so controversial? That shouldn't be a
No,
controversial
it's not.
sentence,
It shouldn't be a
right?
hot take. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I totally agree with you, and like it just brings to mind like people not quite getting like what it is to truly like love and care. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you love and care about someone and what they create, like something gets lost in translation when somebody's a star or somebody is any type of parasocial relationship. I feel like their humanity gets lost in like clearly things that you would know in a, personal relationship in your everyday life, things that you would just know is truth there get lost when it's
Mm-hmm.
parasocial. It's like if you care about a person and they say, I don't like this thing. This thing you're doing is making me uncomfortable. It makes me want to stop doing the thing that you like me for. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
want to stop ever doing it.
Mm-hmm.
To care about that person is to then stop doing that. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
simple. In your everyday life, you know that. If your friend was like, "Hey, when you punch me in the arm, I really don't like that. Please stop." You wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be like, "We're friends. I have the right to punch you in the arm."
Yeah, you know what you signed up for with this
Yeah.
friendship.
There was a distinct arm punch clause that was,
Mm-hmm.
completely not spoken, but definitely there. Contextually,
Mm-hmm.
it was there. Yeah, that's what it feels like, and it's like I think it's true. I mean, it's definitely true of parasocial relationships, but it does apply to other aspects of life. It's like people aren't there to show up for you in the way that you want them to, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the hard parts of loving someone is they show up how they can. And like she does show up on stage. She does
Mm-hmm.
show up, for like with the music she brings to the table. Like she does say supportive things to people and
Mm-hmm.
means them seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that she doesn't want to show up in that way, in that
Mm-hmm.
area. It makes her uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's a fact of life in relationships. Like there may be like things where somebody's just not comfortable doing something and it's not okay to push them past that just because you want it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally just, well, I want it. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
it. That's the only argument. I want it, so it should happen. Like that's Do you, and like she's saying, like with no care or concern at all for the fact that she doesn't.
Hmm.
I think that's a very risky thought process and ideology there. And I think we need to, if you feel that way, I would really reflect on why you feel that way and what makes you think, you have the right to kind of treat her that way.
Hmm.
And again, like looking at it in your everyday life, and if you really care about her, why would you not listen to what she's saying
Hmm.
she's uncomfortable with?
If you really care about also the type of these structural things that are going on, why do you have exceptions when it applies to
Right.
you? And
Right.
that's honestly the explanation for most of the terrible things in our society, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's fine when I do it because I'm not the bad
I have a
one.
good reason.
I have a good reason.
Yeah.
The reason's always justified. And that's why you have to separate yourself as best as you can, as best as anyone can, and think about what is ultimately what you believe about the world. And
Yeah.
if it goes against what your actions are,
Yeah.
that's on you. That's not on them to fix it.
Well, it's definitely reading like nice guy behavior, right?
Hmm.
Hashtag F the nice guy podcast. No, but really, because it's like, I think people think that because they have a good intention, because they love her, they
Hmm.
like, well, I don't have any bad intention going up to her. And
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, but she doesn't know that. And even if you do
Hmm.
have good intentions, that doesn't change the impact of what you're doing.
Hmm.
And I think that's like the nice guy mentality. Well, I just want to compliment her. I
Hmm.
just want to tell her she has a nice ass. That's all. Like,
Hmm.
excuse me. And it's like, yeah, she doesn't want that. So
Hmm.
if you would not do this to her as an everyday person,
Hmm.
then maybe you shouldn't do it to her now.
Yeah.
If you have strong beliefs as to why that's a problem in everyday life, it should still apply to her. She shouldn't lose like the privilege of like
Hmm.
decency because she's a star.
Hmm. Just because she happens to be really good at this thing, and
Right.
it seems like musician,
It seems like, huh?
yeah, it seems like with musicians it happens more than a lot of others,
Yeah.
and a lot of I'm sure, and that's not the celebrity in general. Obviously, it happens to, but first, I think because of the emotion that we put into music and the connection that we have with
Yes.
music, I think it does elevate them to a level where that's different than a lot. She's not going to be Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves rides the subway, right? And no one is, and he's a huge. Everyone knows
He's
who Keanu
fine.
Reeves is. But if he was a musician, he probably wouldn't. In that same way, there probably would be a different level.
Well, I mean, Pink at one of her concerts was handed a
Hmm.
bag and she was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, what is this?" And then I forget what they said. It was something like, "It's my mom." They had handed her ashes.
Oh
And she was like,
God.
"Oh, you keep this." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how she feels about that, but I'm like, there is a like you gotta
Hmm.
you you can't like you just can't be
You have to figure out some sort of
handing
line.
ashes. Like as much as you love them,
Yeah.
like it's so
Hmm.
one-sided, and there's an expectation for them to give you back that emotional depth that they put in
Hmm.
their music. And it's like you are enjoying them, and I'm sure they're glad you do, and I'm sure they're glad you show up, but like there's got to be some level of like
Hmm.
boundaries, especially with like I just feel like it happens more to women and musicians definitely, but I feel like women get some
Hmm.
weird
No,
behavior.
absolutely.
And yeah, people have to be able to have boundaries. If we as a whole condemn her for not wanting to
Hmm.
be touched and harassed, what
Hmm.
does that say to our society, and what does that
Right.
tell women as a whole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great note.
Thank you so much,
Think we
Chesko.
nailed it. Did we I think we did. Think we I don't know, probably I don't know, you were great.
You were great. Everyone was great.
There, I'll give one last little kind of note on that about to the expectation of time that people have because you've talked about that before where men will come into your comment sections also and expect you to be their therapist.
Yes.
Someone messaged me the other day about one of my videos. This was not a fan that he disagreed with it. And he was like, you have to admit that's a bad argument you made in that video. And I responded, I was like, look, hey, my videos aren't for everybody. It was quickly. It was like I gave him a quick response, like my videos aren't for everybody. I'm sorry you didn't resonate with you. Have a good day. And he was like, no, you need to break down and tell me, I want you to explain blah, blah, blah. And my response was, I probably shouldn't have responded again, but I was like, look, I don't owe you my time,
Right,
right?
right,
If you would like to pay me to break down my argument and
right.
explain it better for you, sure, hire me that way. I don't owe you a listed breakdown of my argument so that it makes more sense to you, so that you can walk away, because you don't want it anyways.
Right, right,
In
right,
that
right.
instance, but it's that expectation where he wrote back this really angry message that I had the audacity to say, I don't owe you my time, right? And that exact same, but and nobody does, right?
Yeah. I mean, time is precious. It's like the most
Mhm.
precious commodity, truly.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
like, especially for someone who's a performer, their downtime is precious to them. Their family time
Hmm.
is, I hope, I don't know, but
Hmm.
I would assume is precious to them. The times that
Hmm.
they get to be a person and not, a
Hmm.
product, which unfortunately so many artists
Right.
become. Like, that's precious. And you just don't have the right to take that from them. And again, it's taking. You're
Hmm.
taking it from them. If you rush somebody without consent and
Hmm.
like which happens all the time. I mean, you see videos of it. It's like you are taking their time.
Hmm.
You are
Hmm.
forcing them. And that's not cool. It's not cool to anybody. I don't like it in my real life, like my personal life.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, when people argue with me, like I told you the one guy who was in my comment section, like, so women are cowards and blah, blah, blah. And it's like people will say things that I feel like I can't leave unchecked,
Hmm. Hmm.
and going back and forth with him. He's like, I don't know if I can trust you, like just demanding like me prove myself so he
Hmm.
can yell at me. Like, I don't have to do that. I don't owe you that. And it's like their expectation is that you'll argue with them, that you'll prove your point. I'm like, I posted a video about a stupid shit. Like I
Hmm.
posted a funny thing I thought was interesting. I didn't like this guy being a jerk online. You don't then get to take, 20 minutes of my time arguing back and forth with you when I know it's going nowhere.
Hmm.
Like, sorry, I don't have to do that. And I think thinking you are owed time from a stranger is truly bizarre.
As she said it, it's weird. It's weird. It's
Weird. That's
weird
the biggest
behavior.
word. You
Hmm.
know what? That is the sum of it. Weird
Hmm.
behavior. It's weird behavior.
If you wouldn't want someone to do it to you,
Right.
why is it the exception for them?
Right. Agreed. Weird
Don't
behavior.
be weird.
Don't be weirdos. Okay?
Yeah.
Just don't be
But you
weirdos.
should listen to, if you're listening to this and haven't heard Chappell's album, you should.
You got to
It
go
really
now.
is. It really is
That
great.
is how she wants to speak to you. Okay?
Yeah. My 4-year-old, I've been playing it all the time, and
Hmm.
I forget that it's on because I listen to it. So it is my current earworm. I listen to it
I get
constantly right
it.
now. And I forget that it was on, and my 4-year-old, I picked her up from school, and she calls all music Taylor Swift, because she really likes Chappell. She's like, "Oh, put
Yeah.
Taylor Swift on," but she wanted
Yeah.
Chappell Roan's album. But I forgot what song was playing, and it was low enough that I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But all of a sudden, I hear her walking around home, "Touch me, baby, ooh, touch me, baby," and I was trying not to respond because
Oh
I didn't
God.
want her.
Yeah.
I was like, if I make a reaction, then she's gonna keep on saying
Mm-hmm.
that over and over,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, be forewarned. Maybe don't listen to all of Chappell's songs around your children.
NSFW. Not safe for work. Not safe for children.
Yeah, but amazing,
But so good. But
so
so
good.
emotionally gut wrenching. Like,
Yeah,
ugh. All right, friends. Well, thank you for joining us today. We've mentioned it a couple times, but make sure to join the Patreon. We have our pre-show that we do every single week, which Chesko said is the best show of the two
it's
shows.
true. The
Debatable.
last couple weeks, including this week, has been very unhinged. We are sharing weight. It has literally become some friend therapy every single week, and we just
Yeah, it's a lot. It's chaos. But if you like chaos and way too much information about either of us, go ahead and
yeah,
check that out.
there you go.
Check out our socials, and our YouTube, and that's it, right? Nothing else to
Think
report.
so.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. Shit.